Woohoo!
So I've got a question for you to start today's session.
Okay.
How many great friends have you had in your life?
That's a good question. Maybe like, let me start counting. Okay, maybe like 5. Am I great? I mean like really, really great. Like basically like best, you know?
What made those friends great?
Probably how much time we spent together, how much I liked them and I felt like they liked me, and sort of how comfortable I could be around them, like how honest and open I could be instead of sort of putting up like a partial mask.
Was there anything about those people or those relationships that enabled you to be yourself?
It's that they were sort of similar to me. They sort of showed parts of themselves and I showed parts of myself, and then they matched up. You felt you could go lower and you could go deeper, and then they wouldn't mock you or be uncomfortable or not understand what you're showing them because it's sort of like we're similar enough.
Based on that, you would say that understanding is an important part of friendship.
Yeah.
What is understanding? What does that even mean?
To have a friend that understands you, it feels like they know you. Like instead of just knowing you as who you've showed yourself as, it's like knowing you as who you are. And really being able to comprehend what that means instead of having parts of yourself that are either hidden away or open but confusing to people. So it's like you're not confused because they know who you are. And that comes from similarities, but it doesn't necessarily need to come from similarities. Because as long as a person really tries to understand you and you're willing to explain and you're willing to really try to understand them as well, then the understanding can just come from the effort put in instead of just an integral similarity. And I find that often when you have those similarities, that it's easier to try to understand other parts of themselves, other parts of your friends that aren't as similar because you're already friends and so you're willing to put the effort in.
Do you think that good friends are important for human happiness?
Yeah. I think they are. I think that a certain level of companionship is necessary for human happiness because we're social beings. And so although people are more inclined to spend more time or be closer to, or have more friends than other people, just a base level of people that know you is necessary. And often friendships fill the holes that romantic relationships really can't fill completely because different people will give you different things in different relationships, and to expect one person to be able to be your other half or to complete you is just kind of toxic and it won't work out.
That's backed by research. I've read a number of surveys and retrospectives by people who do hospice care. Universally, the number one thing that people say they wish they had done more of in their life were their relationships with other people. Do you find making friends easy?
No, not at all. It depends on the person, the situation. If you're in a common experience like school or work or like a club, then you sort of have a reason for interacting and for being next to each other, and so the friendship is easier to build from that. But if you don't have that and you're just sort of out searching the stranger for friends, what do you even do? And even when you have a shared background and like a place to be that you both exist in, it's still hard to make that first step. What do? You just walk up to someone and say, hey, want to be friends? No, they're probably going to react weirdly. You have to sort of try to build the relationships naturally, which is hard to do because nature isn't exactly complicit to your demands.
You seem pretty emphatic that making friends is hard. What do you think makes it hard?
You're trying to find a person that you really think you can be friends with, because although I think that everyone can get along, there are some people that are just sort of incompatible with forming any sort of relationship at all, whether romantic or platonic. Whether it be different core beliefs or different senses of humor or personalities, or someone that really wants to hang out with you all the time versus someone that could only handle like an hour a day. It's just some friendships won't work out. So at first you need to scope out this area of strangers and try to find someone that'll work out with you, because if you invest a lot of time to a friendship that's not good for either of you, then it's just wasted time. And although it's nice that you got to know this person more, it's not going to be a good friendship for either one of you. The first thing you need to do is you need to like find someone that you can be compatible with, which is really hard because friendship is about getting to know someone. And then you have to reach a hand out. And not everyone is as willing to become friends with someone as you are, because there's loners out there, there are people that have friends, have plenty of friends already. There are people that might be just as awkward about it as you and aren't really sure about how to go with it. And so extending out that arm, extending out that offer of friendship is a really vulnerable position to put yourself in, because it's sort of admitting to them, I like you, I want to get to know you more, and I'm willing to like open myself up for this. And so if they reject you, then it might not be as bad as like a romantic rejection, but it can feel sort of similar, because it's like you really offered yourself out to the person, and now that they're rejecting you, it's sort of like a refusal of who you are.
Do you think there's anything specific about you that makes it hard for other people to be your friend?
Well, I'm pretty socially anxious, so I'm unlikely to be the first one that reaches out. And even if I do, I might not be comfortable and friendly in the way that friendships develop, because friendship isn't like an all or nothing thing. It's not like block yourself off completely and then you get to know each other and then you let it all down at once. You're supposed to let out parts of yourself at a time, and that's how you know that you can reach the next level. And for me, it's really difficult to open myself up at all. So to build that level of friendship, it requires for you two to take those steps together. And it's hard for me to take those steps and to interact with like a stranger enough for it to move past the non-stranger phase.
Why do you think that's so hard for you?
I have a lot of general anxiety, but then with people, the anxiety gets a lot worse. I think it's because I'm scared of being judged or being disliked, because even if someone isn't explicitly rude or cruel to you, there's still that knowledge that you showed someone something that they didn't really want to see. And even if they're polite about it, you can always sort of sense that you crossed a line you didn't know that was there. And I think it's really hard for me to see those lines. And now everyone's looking at me like, why did you do that? Why didn't you do that? And I don't know what I did wrong, and I don't know how to fix it. And so to expose myself up to someone, it's sort of going against everything I've ever taught myself. Because the way to stay safe is, number one, not to do those interactions at all. Number two, to close yourself up as possible. The whole list of rules has been broken when trying to extend friendship. And so that's really terrifying for me, especially when I've had kind of bad experiences with friendship and people in general before.
It seems like from what you said initially about friendships being hard, that you think that most people feel that way. Is that true?
No one says it's super, super easy to make friends. And everyone feels that sort of vulnerability when going out in the first place, or when you're really trying to become really close friends or best friends. But I definitely think I'm an outlier when it comes to the amount of anxiety I feel and the amount of fear I feel exposing myself up to others. And so it seems like when I'm seeing people that I know in real life, like my friends or acquaintances, or just like people online talking about their experiences, it feels like everyone is so much more comfortable talking with acquaintances, talking with strangers, talking with people in a big group. So it feels like everyone sort of has the rules that I didn't get, and everyone has the experiences that I wasn't able to experience, and everyone has this talent that I, for some reason, wasn't born with. And so now it's harder for me to do things that everyone else feels comes more easily to them. It's harder for me than it is for anyone else to do that, or for the mass majority of people to do that. And so that just sort of adds to the strangeness within myself that makes it harder to become familiar with a person in the first place.
So it sounds to me from what you said that you feel like making friends for you is probably a little harder than it is for most people.
Yeah.
Most people who would look at you and listen to you would probably be a little surprised by that. Do you think that there are people for whom it's harder to make friends?
For all the reasons I just said, having difficulties exposing yourself to others, not reading social cues well, people will have difficulties making friends when they've had difficult positions, difficult situations with friends before, so they have sort of trauma from that. Generally, it might be hard to make friends if you have a personality it seems incompatible with some people. When you have a trait that's seen as undesirable to most people, whether that be in personality or even like appearance, then the process of being friends with them and then exposing those traits to them is going to be harder from you if you know that they're undesirable or you've had people say that's sort of like a friendship breaking trait before.
I think that was part of the reason I asked the question. I think that you seem like a confident person. You seem like a relatively articulate person. There's nothing about you physically that is necessarily off-putting. But I think you're right. I think that friendship is based on desirability to some degree. So it seems to me that the struggles you talked about were internal struggles. It didn't seem like it was necessarily about other people not wanting to be your friend necessarily. What would you say to people who really feel that other people just don't naturally want to be their friends?
There are a lot of different struggles that someone can have with making friends. So it depends on what the issue is. First, you determine if that's true, because often our internal insecurities can manifest into external ones. So sometimes the external barriers in your path to making friends aren't quite as real as you might like to think they are. But if there is a genuine issue with people just not wanting to be your friend, then find better people. Because, believe it or not, there's always going to be a person that is compatible with you and that is willing to be your friend. You need to find people with similar interests, with similar experiences, that can really open up a place to talk about and a foundation to build a friendship on. In order to make friends with someone when people don't like you, you need to reduce those insecurities down and find that maybe some people do like you, or you need to find new people, and then you need to take the first step and you really need to try to be friends with people, even though it's hard and scary and it feels like it's impossible.
That sounds like a tall order. Rightly or wrongly, you already feel that people don't naturally want to be your friend. That means that you actually have to put out more energy
Yeah.
to become friends with people than conventionally desirable people.
Yeah. Ironically, the charismatic people already have a lot of friends. They find it much easier to make new friends because they're just naturally like that. We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.